Dust devils danced across the parched prairie as the stagecoach rattled along, its occupants dreaming of redemption. Suddenly, a figure materialized, seemingly from thin air. Not a bandit draped in black, but a vision in scarlet, astride a white stallion. This was no ordinary highwayman. This was the book bandit. His mask, a stylized raven, glinted in the harsh sunlight. With a theatrical flourish, he brandished not a pistol, but a velvet-lined case. "Greetings, travelers," he boomed, his voice strangely refined for the Wild West. "I seek not your gold, but your literature." Confusion rippled through the passengers. The book bandit ignored their bewildered stares, his gaze sweeping over them like a connoisseur assessing fine art. "Ah, yes," he purred, spotting a worn leather-bound volume clutched by a nervous clergyman. "That appears to be a first edition of Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress? Precisely what I require." With a bow and a wink, he relieved the clergyman of his book and vanished as quickly as he appeared, leaving behind a cloud of dust and a legend in the making. In the same cloud of dust that birthed the book bandit's legend, Sarah Walker arrived in redemption. The town lived up to its name only in the ironic sense. Opportunity, however, was what Sarah sought, not salvation. She was a reporter, fresh off the train, with ink-stained fingers and a burning desire to make a name for herself. Redemption's newspaper, The Prairie Truth, was a humble affair, mostly printing cattle prices and local gossip. Sarah, however, dreamed of front-page headlines, of stories that would travel beyond the dusty plains. She'd heard whispers of strange happenings, of an outlaw with a penchant for the peculiar. Redemption seemed a graveyard of ambition, but Sarah refused to be buried. She set about making her presence known, her sharp questions cutting through the lazy afternoon air like a desert hawk. The book bandit, she sensed, was her ticket out. This bizarre outlaw was a story waiting to be told. The whispers followed Sarah like tumbleweeds. In the saloon, over games of poker, men spoke of the book bandit with a mixture of fear and amusement. In the general store, women exchanged nervous glances while discussing the latest robbery. It wasn't the theft itself that unnerved them, but the what and the how. Gold fever was understandable. Book fever, however, was not. That's what hooked Sarah. The sheer oddity of the crimes, the blatant disregard for monetary gain, hinted at something deeper, something more complex than simple banditry. Old Man Hemlock, the Prairie Truth's grizzled editor, scoffed at her interest. Book bandit? That's just tall tales to scare the tourists, girl. Stick to cattle rustling, that's real news. But Sarah saw the spark of genuine unease in his eyes. He knew something, and Sarah knew she was onto something bigger than cattle. She started with the victims, seeking patterns, searching for the key to unlock the book bandit's strange obsession. The victims, though diverse in their lives, shared one unsettling similarity. Each possessed a rare or historically significant book. But where were these books coming from? Redemption wasn't exactly known for its literary scene. Following a hunch, Sarah ventured to the outskirts of town, to a building locals vaguely remembered as the old lending library. Decades of neglect had transformed it into a crumbling mausoleum of forgotten knowledge. Dust lay thick as snow, and the air hung heavy with the scent of decay. Inside, amidst the cobwebs and rodent droppings, Sarah found remnants of a once grand collection. Catalog cards, brittle with age, hinted at titles long gone. As she carefully sifted through the debris, she discovered a pattern. Each book stolen by the book bandit was once listed in this library's inventory. Scrawled notes in the margins of the surviving cards pointed to specific editions, each marked with an almost obsessive level of detail. The book bandit wasn't just stealing books. He was hunting for specific versions of them. The question was why? Before the mask, before the scarlet coat, there was Elias Thorne, a skinny boy with eyes that devoured books whole. He possessed a mind unlike any other, a photographic memory that allowed him to recall entire passages after a single reading. He wasn't popular, wasn't athletic, but he had the library. The old lending library, then a vibrant hub of the community, was Elias's sanctuary. He knew every shelf, every title, every dog-eared page. He could recite entire chapters of Moby Dick or diagram the constellations from Star Atlas. The librarian, a kindly woman named Mrs. Abernathy, nurtured his gift, allowing him access to the library's hidden treasures. Elias thrived amongst the books, lost in worlds of adventure and knowledge. He wasn't just reading. He was absorbing, internalizing, becoming one with the stories themselves. But the world outside the library was harsh, unforgiving. And soon, that world would come crashing down on Elias, shattering his sanctuary and setting him on a path towards the Raven's Mask. The drought came first, scorching the land and decimating the Thorn family's ranch. Then came the locusts, devouring what little remained. Forced into debt, they lost everything, including their most prized possession, a private collection of rare books, carefully curated over generations. These weren't just books, they were family heirlooms, each volume holding a piece of their history. The auction was a brutal affair. Elias watched, helpless, as strangers snatched away his beloved books, one by one. The loss was more than financial. It was a severing of his very soul. The library, his haven, was gone, replaced by a gaping void. The trauma triggered a descent into madness. His perfect memory, once a gift, became a curse, replaying the auction in vivid detail, each lost title echoing in his mind. He became withdrawn, lost in his own world, muttering passages from his stolen books, his grip on reality slipping with each passing day. The seed of the book bandit was sown in that moment of devastating loss. Driven by the library's records, Sarah discovered an obscure connection. A former bookbinder named Silas lived in a remote cabin in the hills. Silas, a wizened old man with ink-stained fingers and eyes that held a lifetime of stories, initially refused to speak. But Sarah's persistence and her genuine interest in books eventually wore him down. Silas revealed that Elias had been his apprentice, a prodigy with an uncanny ability to restore even the most damaged volumes. After the auction, Elias had become obsessed with recreating his lost library, meticulously copying pages from memory, binding them with his own hands. He wanted to bring them back, Silas whispered, his voice raspy. To make them whole again. He said the world was a cruel place, but within those books, he could find peace. Silas also confessed that Elias had asked him about specific inks, papers, and binding techniques used for first editions. He hadn't understood then, but now it was chillingly clear. Elias wasn't just copying books. He was trying to resurrect them, to erase the pain of their loss by recreating them perfectly. The book bandit's obsession was more than theft. It was resurrection. News of the latest stagecoach robbery reached Sarah like a thunderclap. This time, the target was a wealthy merchant transporting a first edition of Moby Dick, a book Elias had practically memorized as a child. Sarah felt a chilling certainty. This was Elias, driven by his obsession. She raced to the scene, arriving to find the stagecoach passengers shaken but unharmed. The book bandit had left his signature calling card, a raven feather tucked into the driver's seat. The merchant, still trembling, described the bandit's theatrical pronouncements, his almost reverent handling of the stolen book. He spoke of whales and vengeance. The merchant stammered, said something about Ahab finding his white whale. It was unsettling. Sarah knew then that Elias's madness was deepening, his obsession blurring the lines between reality and the stories he so desperately clung to. The hunt was no longer just about uncovering a story. It was about stopping a man consumed by his own demons. The book bandit was spiraling, and Sarah feared where he would land. Determined to confront the book bandit, Sarah positioned herself along the stagecoach route, armed with her notepad and a hidden pistol. The wait was agonizing, the silence broken only by the wind whistling through the tall grass. Then he appeared. The book bandit descended upon the stagecoach with a practiced grace, his scarlet coat billowing in the wind. But it wasn't just his appearance that captivated Sarah. It was his words. He didn't bark orders like a common thief. Instead, he recited passages from Shakespeare, weaving them into his demands with chilling elegance. "Friends, Romans, countrymen," he proclaimed, his voice echoing across the prairie. "Lend me your ears and your first editions." Sarah watched, mesmerized, as he plucked a rare volume from a terrified passenger, his gloved hands handling it with the utmost care. His performance was terrifying, yet strangely beautiful, a blend of madness and genius that left her both shaken and utterly intrigued. This was no simple outlaw. This was an artist driven to extremes by a force she was only beginning to understand. The line between reporter and captivated observer blurred with each passing second. As the book Bandit vanished into the horizon, Sarah replayed the encounter in her mind. The Shakespeare, the reverence for the books, the sheer theatricality of it all. It wasn't the behavior of a common criminal. He wasn't driven by greed, by a desire for wealth or power. It was something else, something deeper. She thought of Silas's words. He wanted to bring them back. Elias wasn't stealing. He was reclaiming. He wasn't driven by malice, but by a desperate, almost childlike need to recreate something he had lost. Sarah began to see the book Bandit not as a villain, but as a tragic figure, a broken man haunted by the ghosts of his past. He wasn't robbing stagecoaches. He was trying to piece together the fragments of his shattered soul. The rare books weren't just objects. They were symbols of a lost world, a world he was desperately trying to rebuild. This understanding didn't excuse his actions, but added a layer of complexity to the story, a layer that Sarah couldn't ignore. The story shifted from simple outlaw tale to tragedy. Following a hunch and scraps of information gleaned from Silas, Sarah tracked the book Bandit to an abandoned silver mine nestled deep in the canyons. The entrance was hidden behind a crumbling facade, a silent testament to forgotten dreams. Hesitantly, she entered, her lantern casting long, dancing shadows on the rough-hewn walls. The air was thick with the smell of dust and something else, paper. Deeper inside, the mine opened into a vast cavern, illuminated by flickering candlelight. And there it was, Elias's sanctuary. Shelves lined the walls, filled with meticulously recreated copies of rare books. Each volume was painstakingly crafted, the pages filled with elegant script, the bindings adorned with intricate designs. It was a testament to Elias's skill, his obsession, and his madness. A library born not of wealth, but of loss, a refuge built from the ruins of a broken heart. The hideout was less a criminal lair and more a shrine to lost knowledge. Sarah had found the heart of the book bandit's obsession. Elias stood amidst his recreated library, his face hidden behind the raven mask, his scarlet coat a splash of color in the dim light. Sarah approached cautiously, her voice soft. "Elias," she said, using his name for the first time. "I know what happened. I know about the library, about the auction." He turned, his eyes, visible through the mask's openings, filled with a mixture of defiance and despair. "You understand nothing," he hissed, his voice a strained whisper. "This is my sanctuary, my world. They took it from me, and I'm simply reclaiming what is rightfully mine." Sarah took a step closer. "But this isn't you, Elias. This isn't the boy who loved books. This is madness." She reached out, her hand hovering near his arm. "There's still good in you. I saw it. You can stop this. You can find another way." Her words seemed to pierce through the fog of his obsession, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. For a moment, the book Bandit vanished, replaced by the lost, broken boy he once was. But the darkness was too strong, the pull of his obsession too deep. The raven mask remained. "You don't understand," Elias repeated, his voice gaining strength, the book Bandit reasserting control. "This isn't just about books. It's about creating a perfect world, a sanctuary where beauty and knowledge reign supreme. A world untouched by greed, by loss, by the ugliness of reality." He gestured around the library, his eyes gleaming with fanaticism. "This is more than a replica, it's a resurrection. Every page, every binding, every detail, perfect. Here, within these walls, I can escape. I can be safe." He revealed his grand plan to complete the entire collection, every single volume his family had lost, to create a haven so complete, so perfect, that the outside world would cease to exist. It was a vision of beauty born from madness, a desperate attempt to control a world that had relentlessly taken everything from him. The library was not just a hobby. It was his entire reason for being. Sarah realized the depth of his delusion. He wasn't just stealing books. He was building a new reality. Suddenly, the sound of approaching horses shattered the fragile peace of the mine. Sheriff Brody, a man with a face like granite and eyes that only saw dollar signs, burst into the cavern, followed by a heavily armed posse. "Thorne," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the library. "You're under arrest, and I'm confiscating these ill-gotten gains." Brody's gaze swept over the shelves, his eyes gleaming with avarice. He didn't care about justice. He saw a fortune in rare books. Sarah knew then that Brody hadn't come to uphold the law. He'd come to loot. Elias, startled by the intrusion, recoiled, his hand instinctively reaching for a hidden pistol. The air crackled with tension. The library transformed from sanctuary into a battleground. A violent showdown was inevitable, a clash between obsession, greed, and the pursuit of truth. The books, symbols of knowledge and escape, were now caught in the crossfire. The sheriff's arrival changes everything. Sarah found herself caught in the crossfire, both literally and figuratively. Exposing Elias would mean handing him over to Brody, a man who would exploit his madness for personal gain, selling off his precious books to the highest bidder. But protecting him meant condoning his crimes, allowing his obsession to continue fueling his dangerous behavior. She knew Brody was corrupt, but could she justify shielding a known outlaw? Her reporter's instincts screamed for the truth to be told, for the book bandit's story to be revealed. But her conscience wrestled with the knowledge of Elias's pain, his broken past, and the beauty he had created amidst his madness. The choice was agonizing: justice versus mercy, truth versus compassion. Sarah had come to redemption seeking a story, but she now faced a moral dilemma that threatened to shatter her own beliefs. The reporter must now become the judge. She had to choose. Which would it be? The shootout erupted in a chaotic ballet of gunfire and desperation. Brody's posse, eager for the promised reward, fired indiscriminately, bullets ripping through the air, tearing through the carefully crafted pages of Elias's beloved books. Sarah, caught in a maelstrom, dove for cover, her pistol clutched tight in her hand. Elias, fueled by a primal rage, fought with a ferocity born of madness and despair. He moved like a phantom, his raven mask a symbol of death, his shots precise and deadly. But he was outnumbered, outgunned. A stray bullet found its mark, piercing Elias's chest. He staggered, clutching at the wound, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Yet, even as his lifeblood ebbed away, he refused to surrender. With a final surge of strength, he reached for the last remaining book, a first edition of Paradise Lost, placing it on the shelf, completing his replica of the lost library. The library is now his legacy. Even as Elias fought, he was compelled to finish his task. The wound does not stop him. The fighting subsided, leaving a scene of carnage and devastation. Brody, realizing his plans for a quick profit had been thwarted, cursed and retreated, leaving behind his wounded and the dead. Sarah, shaken but alive, made her way to Elias. He lay on the floor, his scarlet coat stained crimson, the raven mask askew. His eyes, though dimmed with approaching death, still held a spark of recognition. Sarah knelt beside him, her hand gently touching his. "It's complete," he whispered, his voice barely audible. I brought them back." He gazed up at the shelves, a faint smile gracing his lips. Surrounded by his beloved books, his sanctuary finally realized. Elias Thorne breathed his last, a tragic figure who sought solace in art, but was ultimately consumed by his obsession. The book bandit died as he lived, surrounded by stories. It was both a sad and beautiful ending. His obsession killed him. He never escaped it. Back in redemption, Sarah sat at her typewriter, the keys clicking a mournful rhythm. She wrote of Elias Thorne, the brilliant boy who became the book bandit, a tragic figure driven to madness by loss and obsession. She wrote of Sheriff Brody's corruption, his greed, and his ruthless pursuit of personal gain. She didn't shy away from the truth, painting a vivid picture of the shootout, the devastation, and the beauty of Elias's recreated library. It was a story that demanded to be told, a story that would expose the darkness lurking beneath the surface of the Wild West. The article was a sensation, picked up by newspapers across the country. Sarah Walker became a household name, her career catapulting to heights she had only dreamed of. She had achieved her big break, but the victory felt hollow. Elias's story had brought her fame, but it had also cost him his life. The success was bittersweet. While she had gotten what she wanted, the cost was high. It was a tragic price for her success. The story of the book bandit faded from the headlines, replaced by new sensations, new tragedies. But the questions it raised lingered, echoing in the minds of those who had read Sarah's article. Was Elias a criminal, a madman, or a misunderstood genius? Did his obsession justify his crimes? And what was the true cost of art, of beauty, when pursued to such extremes? The library, a testament to Elias's brilliance and his madness, remained hidden in the abandoned mine, a silent monument to a life lost in the pursuit of perfection. It served as a stark reminder of the power of art to both create and destroy, to offer solace and to consume entirely. The line between genius and madness is blurred. Art can both save and destroy. Elias is the perfect example of this. The ending is designed to make the reader think. The reader is left with these questions. Years later, long after she had left Redemption and built a successful career, Sarah found herself drawn back to the abandoned mine. She descended into the cavern, her lantern illuminating the familiar shelves. The library remained untouched, a testament to Elias's enduring legacy. Dust motes danced in the candlelight, illuminating the meticulously crafted books, each one a symbol of his genius and his madness. Sarah ran her fingers along the spines, feeling the weight of his obsession, the echo of his lost soul. The library was no longer a criminal lair, but a place of quiet reflection, a sanctuary for those who sought solace in the power of stories. It was a testament to the book bandit's strange and beautiful mind, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the Wild West, art could bloom, even if it was born of tragedy. Elias's library is his memorial. His story continues to live on. It is a reminder of the power of words. It is a place for reflection. Sarah understands this. The end.